Jessica is in a love triangle again. She really likes Cameron, the cute guy from the mailroom, but she thinks that her boss, Quentin the photographer, can make her a famous model. So she makes out with Quentin, and of course Cameron sees. He decides that's it, he's breaking up with Jessica and he's not gonna give her another chance. But of course we know he will, because he said that like 4 times already.
Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review.
Jessica flirts extra hard with Quentin now that she thinks Cameron is out of the picture for good. He agrees to improve her status by taking her to The Edge, a hit place that's full of celebrities and models. Jessica loves it at first, but Quentin is a huge jerk. He talks about himself all the time, he insults Jessica regularly, he refuses to dance or let her hang out with the other celebrities, and it's basically the worst date ever. It's like Jessica is dating herself. So awful. She wishes that she could be with Cameron instead, and she thinks that she sees him getting into a Porsche. Elizabeth also has boss problems. Leona is exactly the land of woman Elizabeth wants to be. Land of woman? What is... must be a typo. Anyway, Leona was only pretending to be Elizabeth's friend. She is planning to stab Elizabeth in the back by stealing her column idea and giving it to the editor, Gordon Lewis, next week. Elizabeth calls Gordon and tells him about Leona's treachery. Ha ha! Just kidding, that's too easy. Instead, Elizabeth and her friends come up with an unnecessarily complicated plan. The plan involves making a fake backstory for Elizabeth. She is the magazine's new assistant editor, nicknamed the Child Prodigy because she has such great ideas. She calls Gordon and schedules a meeting with him on Friday. To support their illusion, they disguise Leona's office as Elizabeth's office, and they attend a fancy party in Bel Air where they talk her up. Elizabeth's 2 best friends pretend to be secretaries at the magazine. It was nice to see them play a useful role after Elizabeth ignored them in Book 1 and after the author ignored them in Book 2. The meeting with Gordon goes fantastically. He loves Elizabeth's idea for a new column and he brings it to the board. But Leona bursts in at the last possible second. She takes all the credit for the idea and she claims Elizabeth is an underhanded sneak. When Gordon learns that Elizabeth is an intern, he sides with Leona. Elizabeth is fired immediately, although to be honest, that doesn't mean anything, cause it's the last day of her 2-week internship. She wasn't going to come back to work next week anyway. You might be wondering how Leona found out about Elizabeth's evil plan and how Leona arrived on time, considering that she was in a hospital in another state with a broken leg. Well, keep wondering, because the book never explains Leona's untimely arrival. Jessica spends her time mooning over Cameron and fighting with Simone. Simone reveals that she's dating Todd. Quentin is furious, and he kicks Simone off the set. He uses Jessica as a model and promises that he'll use her pictures in the magazine layout. In real life, I'm pretty sure fashion magazines have editors and layout artists. They don't put photographers in charge of that stuff. But for the sake of the story, let's pretend Quentin gets to decide which photos are used in the magazine. I've been ignoring Todd's story the whole time, haven't I? Sorry. Todd's story is unremarkable. He gets a tiny, run-down apartment and he hates living there. He has dinner with his parents and Simone, only he burns all the food and Simone is a jerk. She insults his parents and leaves because she can't stand being in his apartment. Unlike Jessica, Todd has standards and he's not willing to put up with a horrible relationship to further his career. Plus he wants to date Elizabeth again, of course he does. He always comes crawling back to Elizabeth when they break up. Forget what I said just now about Todd having standards. He breaks up with Simone and she vows to destroy his career. He doesn't get any more modeling jobs after that and he's forced to move back home with his parents. Leona calls Elizabeth the next day and she tries to explain she did Elizabeth a favor by cheating her. She insists on seeing Elizabeth face to face for closure, so Elizabeth agrees to meet Leona at a restaurant. Only it's a trap! Leona gives Elizabeth directions that take her along a secluded highway, and she pays a criminal to kill Elizabeth by running her off the road. Whoa, what? Leona is willing to kill Elizabeth over a magazine column? I've heard of bosses who mistreat unpaid interns, but that's going too far. Luckily, Todd shows up and saves Elizabeth from being murdered. Quentin and Jessica have another bad date. He asks a ton of questions about Todd and Elizabeth, and obviously she doesn't like it when guys talk about somebody other than her. Jessica has a run-in with Cameron, and she still loves him, so she breaks up with Quentin, and he shrugs it off, saying, he doesn't really care. Both twins ditch school on Monday. Jessica is shocked to see that Quentin replaced all her photos with photos of Simone. Quentin goes into villain mode at this point and says, "Ha ha ha, I never liked you at all, Jessica. I only pretended to be interested in you so I could annoy Simone." Simone and Quentin become a couple again because neither one seems to care that they're both willing to cheat on each other for no reason. Elizabeth goes to Leona's office to confront her. Leona pulls out a gun, and she fails to notice when Elizabeth hits the intercom button. Gordon and the entire office hear when Leona confesses to stealing Elizabeth's column, as well as attempted murder. Leona's quickly arrested, and it's a satisfying culprit capture. Elizabeth's life quickly goes back to perfect after this, especially when she starts dating Todd again. The final version of the magazine has a 10-page spread dedicated to Jessica. Why? As it turns out, Cameron is the magazine's vice president. He's also the owner's son. He was working in the mailroom under a fake identity, just to get an idea of how real employees are treated. Cameron apologizes to Jessica, and they officially start dating. It's supposed to be a happy ending, but I don't understand why Cameron has to apologize. Jessica is the one who cheated on him multiple times. She should be the one apologizing. The end. Post-book follow-up. Don't get used to Cameron. The next book unceremoniously gets rid of him, saying Jessica broke up with him because he took too many business trips or something like that. So much for the perfect boyfriend who's also rich and furthers Jessica's career. My feelings on this book is the same as the last book. It's not outright bad, but it doesn't need to exist. The fashion series easily could have been 2 books, not 3. In fact, it'd be better as 2 books because then you'd have less filler and recap and maybe better pacing. What do I mean by filler? Well, there's a 2-chapter subplot where Elizabeth and Jessica break into Leona's house in order to steal some evidence. The girls almost get caught, and the evidence ends up being useless. That could have been cut from the book entirely with no effect. Also, there are 2 chapters of Todd with the police. First, he reports the attempted murder, then he recognizes the culprit from a police lineup, then the culprit is questioned, and the culprit confesses. I like this part. It was interesting to see the series temporarily become a police drama. However, it's still filler material that didn't need to be there. Compare this to Against the Odds, where Elizabeth calls the police off-screen, they do a bunch of work off-screen, and they show up at the end to arrest the culprit. This book easily could have done the same thing. Likewise, Elizabeth's plan to expose Leona involves chapters of her making a fake personality and backstory. Why? That was pointless! She had Gordon's phone number the entire time! Elizabeth, you should have just called him right away and resolved the entire mess at the start of the book. It feels like that was just an excuse to bring Elizabeth's 2 friends into the story. I feel like I should mention Elizabeth's work friend, Reggie. She has a crush on Gordon and she helps with the plan. She was a good side character and I liked her. I also like Cameron, although he barely appears in this book, beyond the ending where he makes an idiot out of himself by apologizing to Jessica for getting upset when she cheated on him. Todd's subplot didn't interest me. It was more silly than anything else. Oddly enough, I didn't feel like Simone's subplot was resolved. We never get told why she was angry and showing up late to work. We're left to assume it's because Quentin was dating Jessica. But, she was angry before that started, so whatever. Overall, the book is fine. It was weird how Leona becomes a crazed murderer, but good to see Elizabeth defeat her. I liked seeing Jessica's nasty schemes fail, at least until the cop-out ending where she gets the hot guy and the modeling job. But I can't get over the fact that this is a 2-book story stretched to 3 books. It should have been either 2 books or one of those double-length books. I don't know. Maybe I just don't like book trilogies. I feel like I haven't enjoyed these books ever since the series went into trilogy mode. I would prefer it if they went back to single-book stories. I will say I enjoyed this trilogy much more than the Vampire trilogy. The characters and setting were interesting. If I had to rate it as a trilogy, I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8, but I'm rating individual books, which are getting lower scores, because they're incomplete by nature as a ploy to get people to buy the other books in the series. I give Sweet Valley High number 131, Fashion Victim, a 4 out of 10.